Thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, no worries.
Um,
I'm
so
all in.
let's start in question number one.
My life before working with Carolina was, I guess I would have to say, fragmented and disorganized on every level. And while I am still a bit fragmented, and if you walked through my house, you would say she's very disorganized, there's a level of stillness to it now and a level of order that didn't exist before I started this process. It's been a lot of conversations to get me to sort of filter out and tone down all of the things that fly around my head in my day to day life. Some of it is prioritizing, some of it is stepping back and focusing. But everything that I do now that is more effective and, more positive or effective in my own life and choices and professional life and mothering, all of it. I had the capacity in me before. I just didn't have the ability to step out and look at it. And my work with Carolina has allowed me to see the same thing from several different angles so that I have a much better understanding of what I do and why, and how those things affect the outcome of, business things or family situations or just growth in general. Self-reflection and self-examination is also a big part of what Carolina and I have talked about. And in the beginning of our time together, I had a difficult time seeing the forest for the trees, if that makes sense. When I looked at myself, all I could see was the chaos because I definitely defined myself and connected myself to all these external realities that I felt sort of illustrated who I was or my self-worth or my value. Um, Self-blame for me was a fallback. I blame myself for many, many things in my life, which I think we all do to a certain extent, but I would take it a step further and use that self-blame as an excuse to bail out or chicken out or not follow through on things. And I couldn't see that in the beginning. I truly felt like I didn't have the worth to make the leap. Um, and while it's difficult sometimes to acknowledge, okay, I'm doing this on purpose, self-protection mode, um, Carolina creates an environment where I could safely look at myself and not hate myself even more for identifying and noticing that my pattern of behavior was quite manipulative on my part. And a really specific example comes to mind that I'd like to share. We were talking once about my family life, which maybe has nothing to do with my foundation I'm building or my podcast I'm growing. And I was talking about my frustrations with my partner and my daughter. And I shared a situation with Carolina, and she taught me something called the double bind. And it was so powerful for me that I did a whole podcast episode on it. But it helped me realize what I was doing, that I was stirring the pot that would ultimately make my tummy hurt, right? I was the one that was really facilitating a scenario that worked against me. And the realization of being able to see what I was doing, holding two people accountable for a level of behavior that I then criticized them for, wasn't going to make anyone grow or make any of us work well together. Looking at that specific example allowed me to see where I did it in other areas of my life. And that in and of itself was probably a major corner turn for me in regard to self-acceptance and understanding that we all really are doing the best we can. And we have to celebrate our victories and hold ourselves accountable, not for our losses so much, but for the choices we make that work against us. I think all of my biggest insights are that I've had the ruby slippers on the whole time, that I do have the ability to have unbelievable success and happiness in my life. And I do have the ability to organize a schedule, even though I've not quite mastered that yet. And I do have the ability to matter. And I have all along. It's just wading through the pucker brush, so to speak, um, letting the dust settle so that I can look around and truly ascertain where I'm at in relationship to other things. It's just clarity, I guess, clarity that I avoided because I wanted to hide behind the chaos. What I like most about working with Carolina is that she denies fully that she has a therapist bone in her body, but her work is incredibly therapeutic. And so sometimes I refer to her as my therapist, and she's really my coach. And as a coach of distance runners and adolescent girls for 30 years, coach and therapist are often synonymous. So in a conversation with Carolina, personal stories can come up, embarrassing or shameful memories can surface, private interchanges between people in my life can be shared, and never once is there judgment. She's quick to jump in and look at how that might affect the bigger picture. She is a wealth of knowledge, and so she's willing to reach into her bag of tricks to see what might help the situation right then. Carolina is also willing to take the plan for the day and put it aside if something else is more pressing. And ultimately, that makes the prescribed plan more effective when we get to it. So I think for me, that the willingness to be flexible while also having a high level of professional accountability is the perfect balance. So I never feel judged or nervous or worried about a session that's coming up. And I always finish them feeling a bit calmer and better about all of it, regardless of what we talked about. One of the main reasons I would recommend Carolina as a coach is that there's no pretense in her services, and she doesn't begin your relationship with a long list of promises of things that she'll deliver if you work with her. I've sunk thousands of dollars into coaches and programs that promise great results, and they deliver wonderful information, but you can't promise a result in something so subjective as a coaching relationship, because there are too many variables in life. And Carolina doesn't do that. I do not ever remember being promised anything by Carolina. Having said that, I have received incredible bounties and incredible growth and lots of things on the promise list of other coaches through our work together. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't like being sold a bill of goods. I don't want the magic potion off the back of the horse-drawn buggy to cure my headaches. What I want is a conversation about my headaches and why they might start. I mean, and that's just an analogy. But the main reason I would recommend Carolina is that she's not somebody that has a list of things you get if you work with her. You get the list, but she doesn't begin by promising that. As much as you know about what I need to learn, and as much as you're teaching me, and as much as you show, and as confident as you are in sharing it, I never feel like I'm being talked down to. I feel like I'm being included in a really interesting conversation. For me, that's huge because it instills in me confidence. Oh, she thinks I understand this. Isn't that great? which can be funny. But it's very self-affirming because I come away from a conversation feeling enlightened and more knowledgeable, not lectured at, and I better rewrite my notes so I don't forget them. I mean, I do rewrite my notes, but not because I think I'll forget. But so that's a very meaningful piece for me. I also want to point out that I know some people would look at working with an entrepreneurial coach as a short-term thing. Oh, 6 months and I'm going to be making $1 million. And for me, it was really starting at ground zero. Like, it took me a year of working with Carolina to even identify myself as a potential entrepreneur. And the only way I was willing to do it was through my foundation, the Molly B Foundation, that honors my dead child, which is totally taking it out of my identity, which goes back to my self-worth and goes back to my unwillingness to see that I deserve to have these things. And now, once that realization, that took a year. Does that mean Carolina wasn't effective? No. It means she had to keep resharpening her shovel and was willing to do so to help me dig through whatever it was, that all of the things that were sort of blinding me and keeping me stuck in this sort of never-ending circle of failure. And now that we've had that realization, the turnaround in my foundation, the turnaround in how well I sleep at night, the turnaround in my ability to manage, the things that used to just piss me off, is absolutely down several notches and calm, and I'm much more effective in everything that I'm doing. So I also would say, if you truly feel like you're helpless or stuck or hopeless in what you think you want to do, Carolina is willing to spend the time it takes to get you to the point where you can begin. And sometimes that's much more than, how to market your business or how to record something online or, how to ask for help. It's a million other things. What I would say to somebody who was still not sure about working with Carolina is that the only way to know is to meet her, to sign up and take the step and commit to a handful of appointments where you get to know one another. I will say, if it isn't a good match, Carolina won't be offended by that, and you will come out of that journey better anyway, that there wouldn't be a good reason not to give it a try. If I were going to be more specific, that would be sort of a general answer. A more specific answer is, if you are someone who lacks self-confidence and direction, which many of us do, and if you are someone that's reluctant to ask for help in these things, Carolina is the perfect person to help you sift through and wade through all of the details of those emotions and feelings to get you where you need to be to experience success and self-acceptance.